Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your Fulham podcast from Down Under. Here today, joined by a dog who may or may not have got into the intro there, but also joined by Sam. How you going? I assume that's one of yours.
No, she's an asshole. She's such an asshole. She's just come off medication, and me and Paris were like, oh, okay, so she's terrible because she's on medication. Now that she's clean, she's just even worse. So I just have a dog with a terrible personality, and I'm happy to be here. What's up?
And Dad, no dogs barking in the background at your place.
No, but that was very funny. The funny part about it is that probably no one will even hear that, but we all heard it as we were going live, and it was extremely funny.
Just start with
Yeah,
the
Probably
giggles,
didn't
yeah?
translate very well.
Snuck right in the back. Yeah, it's probably just us talking about some random stuff that happened just before the podcast started. But that's the joy of going live, I guess, isn't it?
Sure.
Here today, guys, we're going to discuss. There's quite a lot of stuff that actually happened. We're back after the international break. We're coming up against Tottenham. We weren't really expecting much out of the game, and look, we'll talk through the result. But the big news, I guess, off the back of the game and in the last 24 hours or so is Marco Silva signing his new contract. We will get on and discuss that in a bit more detail. But Dad, I'll throw to you first. It's sort of a bit of a yin and yang after a pretty disappointing loss off the back of a couple of mistakes and then getting some good news straight off the back of that as well.
Yeah. Do you think that was staged in proper WWE sort of sequencing? It felt like we could have some bad news here. How can we actually bury this and turn it around? But yeah, look, we were very optimistic and hopeful coming into the Spurs game, or maybe we were just celebrating um, a bit of Ange Postecoglou fever. But I think we had reason to be hopeful. We had a good outing against them earlier, and it was a tough fixture, probably really accentuated by the fact that we were really undermanned at the back, and it showed.
Yeah, Sammy, as Dad said, we definitely struggled at the back. But we were pretty confident going into this game, not overly so, but I think we all saw a bit of an opportunity in an opening, despite the fact that I think after that win, Postecoglou is picked up the most points of any manager in the Premier League history in their first 9 games. He's got 23 or 25 points, something ridiculous like that. So he's really flying at the moment. And Spurs, they're a good side, but I don't think they looked a million miles ahead of us. Bar the couple mistakes, I thought we actually played okay.
I thought we played really well, but I mean, I'd probably respectfully disagree with you. I was watching the game and I was just borderline taken back a little bit by just how well run Spurs actually were, because I don't necessarily think the talent gap is massively different between our players and their players, but like there's just something about them, the way that they were moving the ball, the way that they were telegraphing basically everything that we were doing. A real for the neutral fan, genuinely a really, really good first half of football. Like genuinely a really, really good game. Like I'll be honest, like there's some times when I'm just rewatching the highlights of games and watching the full 90 minutes where I'll like speed through some bits because in modern life there's only so much time that I have, but I just felt that I was really, really grabbed by like this entire game. And yeah, we didn't necessarily get the result that we want, but I think given the performance that we gave and Tottenham gave, yeah, like we had some mistakes and then Tottenham took advantage of them. But I think that's just what's going to happen when you play against really, really well-worked teams. But you know what? This game could have been 4-0 if it was, I don't know, a Sheffield United. And so I don't think we were completely embarrassed. I don't know, maybe you guys disagree with that. But yeah, I just thought it was a really good game.
I thought they prepared really, really well for us.
Yeah.
None of these things they're kind of open secrets. I think if you look at the way really good teams come at us and press us hard, we do look vulnerable. We do look kind of a level below when we're pressed really, really hard. And then, of course, there's the case of how do we score goals? And even if you can keep the ball out of your own net, you do have to score goals to get points generally. And
Look, it's a
anyway,
very good Spurs side. I don't think I wasn't disagreeing with you there, Sammy. I completely agree. It's a good Spurs side, and I think Postecoglou's done a great job with them so far. They are very well drilled, and I do think man for man they have a much better squad than Fulham have. We have a
sure.
couple of players
Yeah.
who would challenge a few positions. Like I think Polina probably walks into that team, but apart from that, maybe Leno is the only other player who'd get a bit of a look in. Really, then it's evens or Spurs definitely a better side than us. And look, the mark of a good side, and we see it all the time. We saw it especially in the Championship when we had that amazing season. A mark of a good side is just capitalising on the mistakes from the opposition, and we made
Totally.
2 pretty glaring mistakes, and we conceded 2 goals from it. Unfortunately, we haven't been quite as clinical this year in taking those chances when they present themselves. And that's why Spurs are up the top of the table and we're sitting mid-table at the moment. But look, let's talk about the mistakes themselves. I mean, I say mistakes. We could talk about it as one singular mistake because the 2 goals came from almost the exact same situation. Calvin Bassey playing on his unpreferred side, giving the ball away after a high press from Spurs, and Spurs basically having a very easy run at goal pretty much both times. Dad, I'll start with you first. There's been a lot of chat on social media and even in the press as well about where the fault lies for this. So obviously it would be easy to blame Bassey because he's the one playing the pass, but do you think some blame has to lie with Silva here for playing Bassey out of position? We know he's a left back and a left centre back, if you will, as well. Do you feel like maybe we should have looked at a different kind of setup and maybe Tim Ream plays in that right centre back position, or do you think Bassey should have done better in both of those situations?
I'm really trying to resist and actually I don't have that strong an urge to criticize Bassey because I thought for the most part he had a pretty good game and I like him.
Yeah.
And I feel very sorry for him having to fill in for Issa Diop on his non-preferred side. And he's not, he's not Tom Kearney without a right foot. But geez, when you've got 3 pressing you really through, 4 pressing you very hard and really putting you under the pump, and an insistence in your team and your manager to play out from the back, that's asking a lot. And you could argue that Leno kind of set him up pretty badly, and I think was the first goal kind of sent him hard to the corner and the touchline where he had nowhere to go, and it was a poor pass out to, I think it was Lukic, who was a long way away from him as well, making it even more difficult for him. But I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it have been interesting to have got the team sheet and then be discussing this? Because I wonder how you'd feel. And I tell you what I'd be thinking, not just because I'm a bit of a fan, but would we have been better actually of selecting Luc de Fougerolles as a genuine right footer? I know it's a baptism of fire for him and a massive step up. But geez, his right foot is infinitely better than Bassey's right foot. And that's the side. And you guys, I'm sure, would have seen in the post press that Spurs had a very deliberate plan to pressurize him. They recognized it as a weak spot, and they were smart enough to actually push him onto his wrong foot, which caused 2 goals. There's no other way to say it. So I look. You asked whether it's Silva's fault. Silva's in a corner. It speaks to the depth or lack of depth of our squad that we don't have another legit right back. Obviously, it's unlucky with Tosin. He is in the squad, but he's injured. And Yeah, maybe, and it's easy to say that, but maybe in hindsight, young Luke de Fougerolles would have actually been a better gamble.
I'm not sure if I fully agree. I think honestly, probably one of the safest things we could have done is probably put De Fougerolles and Bassi in there and have a 3 at the back. Just because I really like Bassi. I really like Bassi. I really like what he actually adds to the team. But at the same time, I feel that he wasn't properly supported a lot during the game, and I don't feel that like he should have been really in the position that he was put into. And I know we don't have the control over that moment because we don't have the depth to facilitate because Tosin's injured apparently, Diop's injured, so I would have gone for a restructuring. And yeah, I know that gave Jack whiplash, but at the same time, you want to allow Bassi to have some flexibility and be allowed to kind of charge forward, or at least have somebody kind of be able to like sit back a little bit there with him. I just felt that he's not fully Premier League ready yet, but at the same time, nor should he be, because he's only been in the Premier League for like what, 6 games, like 8 games.
You don't change your whole setup though defensively to bring one player in. I think going to 3 at the back would have been drastic and a huge change and
I
something we're
agree.
totally not used to. And I think that would have seen us fall apart completely. It really, if you think Bassi isn't ready, then Tim Ream should be stepping across and going, okay, I've been playing in the Premier League for the last 18 months. I'll step across and play out of position. Bassi plays in position, and you go like that. I'd agree as well, actually, that you probably giving De Fougerolles a run probably wouldn't have been the worst idea. The only thing I can think of is pretty harsh on the old confidence coming in for your Premier League debut against the team who are top of the league and scoring goals going forward and a very attacking side. It would be a bit of a baptism by fire, and I understand why they might try and avoid that.
One positive I can actually
you know what though?
Yep.
I think there's some people. I think in the general sense you're right, but I think it obviously we don't know the guy, but I get a sense that Luke de Fougerolles is the kind of player who actually can step up. I think he's fearless. I think he's really fearless, and I don't think he has a confidence problem at all. Well, clearly there's a
I
big
agree,
step
but
up.
I think you don't want to start your career on a run of 5 losses, for example, as a defender.
But we've got a desperate problem with 2 of our principal players who play right centre back injured. You got a really serious problem, and so you choose: do I play a young kid who's actually been selected for his country and could come up against a major country, and okay, didn't play, but or do you play a guy on his wrong foot who isn't 2-footed? I mean, if Castagna was asked to play in that position, I know he's not a centre back, but he's genuinely 2-footed, and I don't think would have had anywhere near the same problems. But it's big smart teams, well managed and well prepared, are going to find you out, and they did.
I think Bassi. I kind of prefer Bassi over De Fougerolles at this stage, just because I do kind of agree. I do think De Fougerolles has like a steeliness and a bit of maturity over Bassi, but I want to give Bassi the time to actually gain that maturity, because I feel that like he's not there yet. He can't telegraph like the Premier League as well, but I do think he's the better player. And I think once he comes good, we're going to have a really serious player there. So I'd rather give him the time. And it's not in the same kind of way of like Jimenez giving him time. You can really see it in Bassi. I don't actually think this performance is going to actually phase Bassi too much. He just doesn't strike me as that. He just doesn't strike me as that type of person. I feel like, and I really love that, because I feel that if, say, for example, De Fougerolles was in the exact same position and the exact same thing happened to him, I'm not necessarily sure if he would bounce back as well. Now, it's still early stages because we kind of don't really know both of these players. But from everything that I've seen of Bassi, I feel that all of his confidence is very self-made and within him. And yeah, I want to give that as many opportunities. I don't know.
There's one other thing that crossed my mind. There was another change made from our typical defensive midfield setup, where Lukic was started. And honestly, that didn't really work for me on the night. And, maybe that put undue pressure, or maybe the shield to the back four wasn't as effective as it might otherwise have been.
Yeah,
kind of
possibly.
agree.
I think the other option that we saw used in pre-season as well could have been that you play Polina at centre back and then play Reed alongside
Yeah.
Lukic in defensive midfield.
He's too important for us in midfield, though.
Well, I mean, going forward, you allow him to then, you basically do sort of play effectively three at the back and have him drop back into defence when we're defending.
That's a big change. It's a big change to our system.
It is, but it's what we did in pre-season. So I reckon Silva, maybe knowing that Tosin was out the door and assuming that we weren't going to be signing too many extra players, has actually started to prepare for that eventuality. But I agree. I prefer to see Polina there. But if we're talking about someone who could fill that gap, he's probably the best bet if you don't have Tosin or Diop available. In terms of someone who can do a job there. Anyway, moving forward into the game, we sort of covering off on the mistakes there, I think, in the 2 goals, which admittedly were very well taken by Spurs. Not a huge amount we can do there, but looking at the front half of the team, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. Andreas Pereira, I thought, again, was kind of anonymous, had a pretty poor game, I thought. And I just wonder what you guys think about when is the time that we look at actually making a change? Because I thought Iwobi came on and really changed the game and had a lot of impetus going forward. Do you think it's time that Pereira gets switched out and we see Iwobi start, or even Wilson maybe start in that attacking midfield spot? I feel personally, for me, I think there needs to be a change.
Sam, you got anything? I got plenty.
Well, I was gonna give you the floor because I kind of do agree. I feel like it would probably be good to give Iwobi a chance because I do feel that creatively he adds a little bit more. I really like the structure that we play with when we have Andreas. But again, I think that was largely dependent on when we had Mitrovic and a better quality striker, or at least a striker that can kind of create more chances. At this stage, we need to essentially have as much creativity in and around those strikers. So I feel like we've kind of like flip reverse for having like a central point to. We really should be having better options in and around that, and then Vinicius and Jimenez. Oh, there's a spider down there. Vinicius and Jimenez are facilitating that as much as possible. I thought I know I'm veering off topic, but I don't care. But I wasn't really happy with Willian and BDR starting on left and right wing. I feel that was a real missed opportunity to have Harry Wilson there and potentially Iwobi or someone else. I don't know. It just didn't really fit very well. For the first 30 minutes, I thought it worked well, but over the entire stretch of the game,
we will get to the wingers because I think there's changes needed across. The selection was a bit baffling for me across the whole sort of front four. If you take Pereira, Vinicius, and the 2 wingers,
yeah.
Dad, your thoughts though on Pereira himself? Because I do agree with Sam in a way. I think the one thing Pereira really gives us is a really good quality set piece taker. And so taking him out of the side does remove our sort of primary corner taker, primary free kick taker as well. But it just feels like he's in a slump at the moment, and changes have to come eventually.
Well, I totally agree with that point. But I think I've got this overwhelming frustration that there's so many players who I'd like a hybrid of.
Mhm.
And I love Iwobi's energy. He's a bit chaotic. He makes he provides a lot of options. He puts himself about. He's a bit of a firecracker, but his end product isn't that great. Um, when when um, when Andreas is off the field and there's a free kick or a corner, I do find myself thinking, oh, obviously, if Tom Kearney's on the field, he's a very good deputy, and Willian's a pretty deft free kick taker as well and corner.
Mm.
But I, I actually think Pereira, he has very, very good skills in that regard, and I do think when it's working for us from set pieces, he's a real weapon.
Oh,
He's
definitely.
also a very good presser. Actually, he does work quite hard, but he sort of drifts out of games from time to time. He does go a
Mhm.
bit MIA, and so it's a bit frustrating that. But maybe that just is so typical of who and where we are as a mid-team kind of a squad, because we don't have Champions League type players up and down the spine. So you're always going to be kind of looking upwards in terms of I wish I could, I wish he was type situations. And God forbid when they have a form slump, it's even more frustrating. But look, I think it is a form thing. It's not a quality thing. Look at how
Mm.
good Andreas was for big parts of last season. He was outstanding. I remember, as I said last week, going back over those season highlights or goal highlights. He played a huge part in so many really, really good quality goals.
Mm.
And I'm a long way from binning that project. I think he's really, really good. I also like Iwobi a lot, but I'm not sure in this current configuration of squad members that we really know where he best fits.
Mm.
Sammy, we saw half a game from Vinny, half a game from Jimenez. Has it made the striker situation any clearer in your mind?
Honestly, I feel like after this game, it's become less clear than it was before. Which I'm really upset about. Like, this would be an amazing time to just have just like a random 19-year-old just appear out of nowhere and just like, what was the name of that kid
Right, you
from
mean
Barca?
Marshall Gatto or Jay
Yeah,
Stansfield?
legit. Or no, or that kid from Barca who like came on within like the first like 7 seconds and just scored immediately over like the weekend and just being like, that's our answer. You know?
Mm.
I just
Well,
just
absolutely true, Sam. I actually think Jay Stansfield or Marshall Goddard,
Gatto, yeah.
have got far more likelihood because they're genuine strikers and
Mm.
they're unproven at this level, but they actually are that player. And they may just like we were having the conversation around Luke de Fougerols, could he not? They've got just as good a chance of stepping up and actually coming off.
like, I mean, for me, probably Stansfield more than Gatto, because like at least Stansfield has had some experience in the Premier League. I imagine that would probably be pretty daunting for Gatto, but you never really know. But one thing I can say with quite a lot of confidence is I really like the person Vinicius is, what he brings to the team, but I like him off the bench. He's not. I would love to sit here and say that he can play a full 90 minutes. Bless him, he can't. He's amazing for maybe like 20 minutes on a really, really solid day. Jimenez, you're a lovely, lovely man. But
That's the
Saudi
worst thing you can say
Arabia,
about someone. That is the worst thing you
A
can say
lovely
about someone.
really
personality.
nice. He's really, really nice. Saudi Arabia is lovely this time of year. Get yourself a really fat paycheck if you can swindle it for yourself. I would really love for the redemption to be true and the fairy tale to exist, but it's just not Shrek 2. It's Shrek the 4th right now, you know?
I mean, you got to give us credit. We have backed the optimistic train here. We wanted to believe. We really, really have spun it in every possible way in a positive sense, because we really wanted to believe. Because what other choices do we have? We've got two guys who we have to fashion a solution out of. It's not working. It's not working. It just doesn't look like working. It's really bad.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, Jack.
Let's wrap up the game and then get on to something that's sort of linked to it.
Yeah, I know.
I'll just run through some of the stats from the game. Spurs with 56% possession, Fulham with 44%, 15 shots for Spurs to Fulham's 10, 5 shots on target from Spurs, Fulham with 3 shots on target. Spurs 593 passes to Fulham's 463, 3 corners for Spurs to Fulham's 5, and 10 fouls for Spurs to Fulham's 14. A quick check on the league table. Fulham sitting in 13th place. I mean, we're not moving forward, but at the same time, the bottom sides, Burnley, Bournemouth, and Sheffield United, still seem fairly locked into the bottom of the table there. Luton alongside them are picking up a few points here and there, but they're not exactly screaming and coming right up our rear at this stage, at least. So the 11 points we're sitting on seem fairly good at the moment. I think the game against Brighton this weekend is going to be a very big one and a very important one, and we will sort of touch on that before we move on. But what I do want to talk about is the big news that came out, which is the Marco Silva signing his contract extension. It was announced, I think, on Tuesday afternoon. Silva signing a 3-year deal, so extended through to 2026. We obviously know that his current contract was up at the end of the season. So it's really good to see that he has committed. And look, I tweeted about this, and for me, it speaks a little bit more than just your manager signing on for a couple more years because he's had a good run. We sort of know that the relationship Silva has with the Khans and with the club, and how he often voices his frustration at the fact that he's not getting back in the transfer market. He wants more players in. He's not overly happy with it. So the fact that he signed a contract, to me, I don't think the club have come forward and said, here's, quadruple your salary for a new contract. And he's just signed it because it's all about the money. I think Silva's been backed here and he's got some sort of, agreement or acknowledgement from the Khans that they need to spend some money. So I don't know what you guys think, but I think this actually signals that there could be some business coming in January and definitely a lot of business coming in the summer. Sammy?
I truly think that Silva wouldn't have re-signed if he wasn't given at least some type of assurances. Even if he was given like a shitload of money, I mean, you can get that in Saudi Arabia, and like there's plenty of like teams in the Premier League that could probably do with a manager of the quality of Marco Silva. Even in the Spanish league or like the German league at the moment. Like I'm a massive believer and advocate that I think managers in this day and age are actually more important than individual players by a country mile, because I think everybody in the Premier League is an amazing, incredible athlete that is really just waiting for the right manager to be able to utilize them in the best possible way. I just really, really hope that Silva has said, I want this guy, this guy, this guy. I don't know who those people are, but I just really, really want him to get the players that he needs, that are his first choices, and not his C choices, his B choices, his first choices, and that they actually spend some money. And to be honest, I'm actually in a bit of a weird way, I think us kind of struggling and being towards the back end of the Premier League table. I know it's compacted at the bottom, and that's a massive plus for us, but we cannot rely on that. And I really hope that it's kind of scared the Khans into being like, okay, life without Mitrovic we ain't coping and we can't keep this up. So I really hope this is the shot of adrenaline that we've been needing and hoping for.
I actually think there's something in that, Sam. I think a disastrous window, a really terrible commercial window, and notwithstanding, we did make some signings and they're good players, but it was underwhelming and way below what we thought. Not only what the fans of the football club want, but what we believed Marco Silva had ambition for. And you're right. I think obviously no one could have fully predicted the fact that Mitro was going to walk out the door and the effect that would have on our chances in this season, and a lack of signings and, not great business in general has put us under pressure. And perhaps the Khans weren't actually thinking they were going to find themselves in that position. Maybe they thought they'd kind of bluff it and get away with a comfortable mid-table outcome without spending a lot of money. But really, it hasn't worked, and it's probably played perfect into Marco's hands with his re-signing and actually. I was kind of thinking, everyone's got a threshold. As much as he has ambition, there would be a number that he would go, okay, I'll take the money. But he had that opportunity, albeit with Saudi. It's not the same. A club offering him a lot of money to stay as a prestigious Premier League manager might still be tempting if he didn't have a great squad. I don't know. There would be a point at which it would still be a good deal, right? Because you get to buy a new house. But I think he's playing a longer game than that. He must be absolutely filled with confidence for what he can achieve. So I don't think he, for one moment, feels like he can't get another job in the Premier League. And I think the Khans know it. So he held all the cards. And
look, I think this can only be seen as a positive across the board, not just because you're securing your manager for a significant amount of time, especially going into a sort of tough run of fixtures as well, where like we said, there is a possibility that we don't win a game in 6, and to see your manager backed right at the start of that, considering all the issues that have sort of arisen around his contract, is good to see. But it speaks to stability of your manager. It speaks to maybe Silva saying, I actually want us to work really hard to try and secure Polina for the long term, and he signed an extension. Let's see if we can actually hold him for even longer. Let's look, it's quite possible that all the analysts at the start of the season looked at the 3 teams who've come up and said, these teams aren't going to be challenging too high up the Premier League, so all we need to do is finish above 4 other teams realistically to be safe. And so this season can be seen as a rebuild season, and the Khans have maybe looked at that and gone, that means we don't need to spend that much money. Silva will then be going, I want us to spend a little bit more. I need a striker because we didn't foresee the Mitro situation coming. And look, I feel like things seem to sort of be sliding into place a little bit now, and I can see a bit of a path forward. It's been pretty murky for the last 6 months, I'd say. When we lost Mitro, we weren't sure about Polina. Silva was holding back on a contract. We didn't spend any money. All of a sudden, this announcement sort of puts to bed quite a lot of rumours and things that have been floating around in the background. And I think you have to take this as a huge positive that there are positive changes coming in the future.
I don't know about you guys as well, but I'm really, really fascinated and interested to see none of this like dicking around for like the best possible deal, and literally hopefully that Silva gets the players that he wants. And I want to see what that squad is, because if that squad isn't necessarily great, and you know what, he actually, I can never believe it, but if he was like, nah, Rail's my number 1 pick, and then it goes to shit and he can't really like foresee the right type of players. I mean, this is the guy who found Richarlison, so I don't really believe that fully. But I really want to know what a fully constructed Marco Silva Fulham team is.
A fully funded Marco Silva team.
Yeah, but like
unlimited,
also like
unlimited funds. Vision. Go for it. Go for it. What's your vision?
I want to know what that is. I want to know what that is. I really hope I see it. And I really hope that the Khans don't have the similar transfer model system that they've had the last couple
probably
of years.
the Argentinian squad.
Well, look,
Fuck.
I'd say realistically, like you said earlier, Sammy, I think Silva would have had a list of players saying, I want to sign these guys. And the signature on my contract basically hangs on us signing those guys. And so I don't think we'll be, hammering away and trying to get the best possible deal and leaving it to the last minute if that's the case. If Silva said, I'm signing a contract to get these guys.
Can we mark the minutes that you're making this statement so we can go back to it?
Well, I mean, it's
35.
It's still very possible that we won't sign them till late in the window because maybe the Khans have said, okay, you've got these players. These are how much do you think they're worth? This is how much we think they're worth based on the analytics. And this is our final price. And so maybe it does still take time to get them, but at least you feel like they would have sat down and nutted out in a meeting and said, these are the players we want. And, had a handshake at the end of it and saying, right, if we want, I can't name a player off the top of my head, someone like
Joshua Zirkzee, or I don't know.
No, Scott McTominay
doesn't
from
matter.
Man United and said, look, so Silva says, I really want him. The Khans are sitting down as well, and they say, yep, okay, happy with that. That's fine. We're willing to pay 25 million for him. And Silva says, I think we should only go to 20 million, or he's worth 30, so we have to push to 30. But at the end of the day, they've shaken hands at the end of this meeting, and he signed a contract. So no matter what, I think they've come to an agreement, and they're on the same page at this point. So that for me is a big positive, because it seems like there was a massive disconnect there for a long time, and Silva would say something, the club would do the complete opposite effectively. So it feels like we're in a better place now going forward, and I really hope that is reflected in our January business and just the way that Silva is backed in general. Like we might see some more contract extensions coming in the next couple of months before the January period comes. Or we might see some loans, and it's tough to say what's going to happen next, but it's kind of exciting. This felt like really good news after a bit of a disappointing game against Spurs.
Yeah, I just hope that Tony's not playing career mode on FIFA anymore and basing all of his logic off of that. I hope
he's not playing FIFA. He's playing AEW, whatever their silly game is.
Exactly. But I just hope she's turned off the PlayStation and just been like, no, just let Marco do it.
Let's have a quick look before we move on and discuss the Fulham women's recent victory. We'll look at the Fantasy League. I know Colm has been bugging me constantly, and he's joined us on the live stream today because he's doing very well so far. We have Dominic Keogh-Smith with his team currently sitting top on 600 points. Wesley Boxall with Mitrovision sitting in second place, just 5 points behind, and AC Mellon, Jonathan Peachy's team, on 588 points in third place. Colm sitting very nicely in sixth place there on 573 points. Please do keep engaging with us on the fantasy, and like I said, we will organise some sort of prize come the end of the season for whoever finishes top. So I think Colm's going to be keeping a very close eye on that for the rest of the season.
How's your fantasy going, Dad?
Oh, really good. I was just thinking, my mind had turned more to what prize we were going to have, actually, because I've got a couple of dirty coffee cups on my desk here. Would that do?
Wow, you're really selling it. Really selling it.
It's probably a kink for someone, but not for me. Yeah, okay. Look, it's all right. It doesn't matter because you're not going to be winning that one, so we're all good there. Although surprisingly, you're not doing as badly as some people are.
Wait, where's Dad?
I'm actually trying, and Sam, you're only just behind me as well.
Really?
My effort.
Wait, where am I?
My objective is to set my team up at the start, make no changes, and just see how it actually. It's a bit like buying crypto, isn't it? And just trying to trade the market or just buying it and holding.
Here is my effort levels. I have been listening to the audiobook Sapiens, and I forgot that I still had a team.
Dad is currently sitting 52nd out of 56, although he is ahead of two very dedicated listeners in Steve and Emma Reynolds, who sit 54th and 56th. So doing pretty
Where
well
am
so
I?
far. Sammy, you are currently sitting 37th,
Nice.
picking up nice 49 points this week, 497. I'm on 518 points, and actually overtook you this week. So
You
it just shows
overtook me. I was
the
above
joy
you.
of fantasy. I know I was miles above you, and then I made a bunch of transfers and ruined it all, and overthinking it.
No, mate, you
But
got to let that quality, you got to let that value appreciate over time, you know?
I mean, the smarts
My-
by you, Sammy, is
my
just you just Captain Haaland and basically just let it run from there, and it works pretty well. Let's change gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about Fulham Women's, who had a brilliant victory on the weekend. They beat Actonians in the Women's FA Cup. It was 1-0 down up until the very last minute when Becky Stormer came in, first minute of injury time, scored a banging header from a corner, making it 1-1. The game went to penalties at that point, and I do have the rundown of the penalty shootout. Lily Lambert scoring the first. Unfortunately, Sasha Adamson missing. Maddie Parsonson scoring. Olivia Dale scoring. Stratton Clark missing, unfortunately, but Edie Bushell putting the final penalty away to win 4-3 on penalties. Now, I mean, firstly, always a good result and always good to actually win an FA Cup tie, but even more impressive the fact that Actonians play in the league above us and are doing very well this season as well. I think they're sitting third, third in their table at the moment. And we've come away with a very good victory. Dad and Sam, I mean, the magic of the FA Cup is that you get ties like this and you get to test yourselves against higher level opponents. How much confidence do you think the girls will be able to take forward from this game?
Huge, because I think there's probably quite big differences and big spectrums between these sides at this what am I trying to say, at this point in the strata. So if you can actually be competitive against the side above, I think that's exactly the kind of feedback you want to know that you're on track. Notwithstanding the fact that it's so damn difficult to get out of a league, you could excel and have a couple of slip ups and still find yourself having to, do it all again next season. But as I've said before, I just hope that we as a club kind of looking to flood this and just pack these teams with, squads that are infinitely better than their peers so that we move up the grades.
Yeah, I'm just happy that like mentally, like we can go up against like teams in the league above us, and that doesn't really affect us too much, and we can go into games and not only play really competitively, but I love hearing anytime we come back from 1-0 down to not only equalize but to also steal it. I just think that that's such an important thing because it's so easy to get bogged down or what's I need an adjective, but not inferior. Well, maybe yeah, like to go into a game with an inferiority complex. The girls know their worth. They know what they're doing. They know the narrative. It's all part of the story. I love the story. I want everybody to know about it. It's great.
The other thing is, it's easy.
Yeah, go on.
Easy to say. It's easy to say that these cup ties don't matter, and possibly more so if you lose and you happen to fall over. But who doesn't love the bounce and the feeling around the change room when you have a win on penalties? That is a good injection.
Oh, totally.
That's a huge injection into the squad, even if it's not a non-league match. It's a win against a side in the league above and on penalties, which shows you've really stood up.
Well, not just the win on penalties as well. I mean, obviously, winning on penalties, you do get that sort of boost of adrenaline almost, because
Sure.
it is so life or death at that point. But look, I have sort of reports from people who are at the game, basically saying, look, we actually probably should have won this game within the 90 minutes, which shows how well we played against a team who are doing well again in leagues above us. Without banging on about officials as we do sometimes, but it seems they were very card and flag happy a little bit, and there were possibly a couple of opportunities for Fulham to score more goals in regular time, and we may have actually got away with a win rather than having to go to penalties. First half definitely had the better chances, probably should have been 1 or 2 up going into half time. Actonians did improve in the second half and pushed a lot, but look, they managed to score a pretty sloppy goal. I've seen a quick highlight of the goal, and Williamson manages to sort of walk her way through the defence. A pretty good finish in the end, but really, it's a goal that we'd be disappointed conceding, because someone has to lay a tackle in that situation. It wasn't, a Messi-esque run into the box and then an impossible finish. It's one of those where you really do need to lay a tackle, but look, Fulham didn't give up at that point, kept pushing, and Becky Stormer with a wonderful goal off Maddie Parsonson's cross. And I think the big thing to mention in the penalty shootout as well was the fact that Ellie Parker in goal pulled off 3 apparently superb saves. I'm really looking forward to seeing the highlights here, but was really the key to the victory, and surely walks away with player of the match in that instance, saving 3 penalties in a game and getting Fulham through to the first round proper of the FA Cup.
Awesome.
If we have a look, so that tie was actually announced, and Fulham will be playing against Portsmouth. So again, it's another game against a team who are playing above us. Interesting fact here as well, Anisha Hill was previously dual registered with Portsmouth, but joined the club, I think, last season. We do have Mia Adaway, who has actually been a fairly key part of the side so far this season. She's dual signed with Portsmouth Women, so be interesting to see how the cup tie works there. I'm sure both sides will be fighting to have her playing and starting in that game. But look, I was talking to a few people about this and posing the question, and I pose it to both of you. The FA Cup obviously has the ability to throw out these kind of fixtures where you get to test yourself against a team in a higher league. But if you have a look, there's also a large number of sides who are playing at sort of level 7, level 6 in the league structure. Obviously, Fulham sitting at level 5. Would you guys have preferred to play a team lower down and therefore get deeper into the competition? Or do you think it's better to actually test yourselves against a team higher up, even though you might get knocked out of the cup at this point?
Look, I think if you're at level 5, you have to be realistic, and that there's a fair bit of water above you. So chances are you are going to come up against a lot of teams who are potentially stronger. But I think you can't overthink these draws and rounds, and it's way too early to be plotting your course to Wembley. And I think you've just got to take it for what it is. And I'm sure they'll be preparing a game at a time, and there's probably very little intel on these sides as well, because they wouldn't be covered by the media. There's probably no video footage available, so incredibly difficult to know much about your opposition. It's literally park level cricket over again, Jack. But so I think you can't overthink it, and just enjoy the challenge, really. And once you get 2 or 3 more deep, you can start dreaming and thinking about what might be.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the girls really, really want to play against top opposition. I feel like it's really important to them, just in terms of the way in which they see themselves. I feel like they're obviously doing really, really strong in the league, but I think long term they envision themselves in a certain light, and being competitive in a certain way. And I think the more that they can play against these teams, the more that they can kind of reflect them, because it's all well and good being a big fish in a small pond, but I think the girls have bigger ambitions for that. So even if we do get knocked out by a side like Portsmouth, I feel that the more opportunities we have to play teams like this is an opportunity for growth and an opportunity for learning, building, restructuring, and ultimately getting where we need / want to be.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. I think you do, when you come up against teams at this level, you just are able to watch the way they play. And I think when we spoke with Tia
Sure.
as well, she may have mentioned it, saying you learn so much from those games against those higher level opposition, because they do play in a different structure, and you see how quickly they pass the ball around, and how well they hold their formation, how well they hold their shape and their movement on the pitch. So it's a really good opportunity to come up against a team like Portsmouth. They're doing really well in the league at the moment. Um, we played them in pre-season actually back in July and lost to them 5-0. So it's also going to be a really good um, benchmark to see sort of how far we've come since then. It's a good Portsmouth side who are doing really well in the league so far. If I have a look at recent fixtures, I'm seeing 8-0 wins, 9-0 wins, 7-0 wins. They're a team who don't really lose a huge number of games in the National League, and so it's going to be a tough game for us. But I think we should look at it as an opportunity to really test ourselves and see how far we've come, because this season really does feel like a season where we've progressed so much compared to last year. Last year was a good season, but we've just taken that extra step this year.
I've got no doubt that any professional sports person worth their salt utterly relishes the opportunity to face off against, better opposition. Look, I'm not a very good squash player, but it's actually a joy to play against a great squash player, or any sport that you're not particularly good at. Obviously, you may not win, but that's you learn an awful lot, and I think the girls are all about embracing that on their trajectory.
Honestly, even
Yeah.
even if we lose this game, it just the opportunity, the experience is just invaluable. Like, it's a bit of a stretch comparison, but if you think of like a side like Inter Miami, who've just benefited so much just from having a player like Messi there, and having the experience and understanding of how players like that play, and then they integrate that into their squad. Just the more that this happens, and the more that the girls can go up against teams like this, they're even if it's a loss, it's still a positive, because everything can be taken back into the overall goal.
Interested to find out who you think our Fulham Messi is, Sammy.
Well, it should be Gotta right now, but I can't tell that until he gets into the starting squad. But apparently,
I mean, the women's team, obviously.
I think he meant
Ooh.
women's.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Again, like what, 12, 15 over here for me?
Sophie
oh,
Messi.
Sophie Messi.
Yeah, good call.
Oh, yeah, it's probably got to be, doesn't it? I don't know. I haven't seen enough footage. But we'll like once I get that, and then I'll see it. I'll see it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good test. Portsmouth, just having a look at the stats for the season so
Yeah.
far in the league, they've scored 37 goals in their 8 games, and conceded just 2 goals in the league. So they're obviously a very good side defensively. They are clinical going forward, averaging 4 goals a game, sometimes even putting far more than that past teams. So a really good challenge for the girls, and I'm sure one they're really looking forward to. Great that it's a home tie as well at Motspur Park. So To anyone listening at the moment, please do make an effort to get along to that game. I think that'll be an absolute barnstorming game. It's due to be played on the 12th of November at 1 p.m. It's possible that that time will change. That's just the FA's suggested time slot. So do keep an eye on the fixtures. I assume that'll be confirmed fairly soon. One thing that was definitely confirmed, though, is Fulham returning back to the Cottage again. They'll be taking on the Arsenal Women's Academy. Now, this is in the Capital Women's Cup, which is a cup run just within London for London sides. Arsenal Women's Academy won this last year. They beat AFC Wimbledon, who Fulham actually played at the Cottage last season. They beat them in the final. So it's going to be a really good test. This Arsenal women's team played in this cup last season, and I think they put maybe 11 goals past one of the sides in our division. So it's going to be a real test. But again, it's one of those opportunities to get down to the Cottage and support the women. As we see there, for those on the live stream, you'll see the ticket prices have been announced: £5 for adults, £1 for juniors. That's the kind of pricing that it should be for a game like this. And we really expect that people will put in a massive effort to actually get down and support the girls on what will be a huge occasion. I think last season, when they played at the Cottage, there were 3,500 there. It'd be great to see us sort of hit that sort of 5,000 mark for this game, because it's a really great opportunity to get down to Craven Cottage for a game like this. The week after that FA Cup tie as well, but to see the women in action, this is a really special Fulham women's team as well. I don't think we've had such a talented squad since, back in the days when we were winning the FA Cup 20 odd years ago. So it's really important that we do get down and support them, because it's important as well that the club understand that there is support from the wider Fulham community, and it's not just a handful of people who are excited about Fulham women's. It's to show that there's a commercial benefit to this, and that there should be more money invested in them, and that we can hopefully get more games at the Cottage as well. I know it's just an annual thing at this stage and meant to be just the one-off, but I really would love to see a couple of league games a season be pushed forward at the Cottage, and especially in those international breaks. I mean, we just had a break there where there were 2 free weeks and Fulham played 3 games at Motswell Park in that time. It'd be great to see us really push forward an agenda to actually get Fulham women's playing at the Cottage far more often. Great to see that Ash, who's following along on our live stream, saying that got their tickets this morning. I'm sure the kids will love that, Ash. And yeah, guys, do you have anything to add to that? Because I think the main thing is just getting down and supporting.
Yeah, support is one thing. I mean, look, there's no two ways about it. Financially, times are really, really hard right now, and it's very difficult for a lot of people to constantly go to like games just because they cost a kidney for like the men's team. So it's just a really good opportunity to show like your love for the club. And as well, like girls deserve the support. It's so accessible and affordable. I feel like it's just a really, really good way to support Fulham across the board. And yeah, I mean, for £5, £5 and £1 for juniors. It's, I mean, like how can you really go wrong with that? Dad?
Yeah, nothing to add. I think everyone is well aware of how we feel about it, and rah rah rah. Don't say you didn't know.
Rah rah.
Yeah, well,
rah.
again, that's the important thing there is making sure that this is well communicated, and it's good to see that this tweet wasn't tweeted just by the Fulham women's account. It was actually tweeted by the main account, which obviously reaches more people. And
yeah, that's good.
And hopefully we do get that really good turnout for it. I believe it's in the international break, so there's no
better.
football
Even
on that weekend. Yeah, just really meaning that everyone can get around focusing on supporting the Fulham women's in this amazing game at the Cottage. And hopefully you put up a good performance against Arsenal. It's going to be a tough game, but I'm sure they'll put in a big effort in that game. Guys, before we do finish up, I do want to touch on the game coming up this weekend, because we are taking on Brighton, and I don't think we'll be talking before that game. which is due to be played on Sunday.
Tell us why, Jack. Tell us why we're not going to be talking tomorrow night, Jack.
Well, it's just too close for another podcast to be done. No, it's actually
isn't.
my wife, your daughter-in-law, and your sister-in-law's birthday tomorrow. So just shows where our minds lie with the podcast rather than actually sitting down and talking Fulham. We're celebrating family members. It's disgusting. But
I can't believe you turned down an invitation for her to actually feature on the podcast on her behalf before giving her the opportunity to actually live it up.
It does
Look, I
seem
think
rude.
my birthday present to her is not asking her to join in on the podcast.
Oh my God. I'd love Mum to come on this podcast and just be really confused and annoyed the whole time.
And she would hate it just as much, and it's just never going to happen.
I'm not buying that. Mum would love to be here, but she'd be confused and annoyed and very. Well, she's done it live with us, and she got confused at half time. She thought it should be over by that point.
But look, talking of the game against Brighton, Brighton currently sitting 7th in the league. They just don't look the same Brighton side as they have done in the past few years. Still going to be a tough test, though. Dad, your thoughts going into this game?
Yeah, I'm not optimistic. We've got a huge problem in terms of scoring goals. They worked us out very, very well last time, and I know this is a different season, and perhaps they're not having. No, I'm bothered. I'm bothered.
I echoed that a lot. A bad Brighton is still a very methodical. Like, I'm not sure if you guys have seen like too much of them play. They do this really creepy thing where like they play kind of like slowly. I know this was more last season, but they play quite slowly and they just kind of like work you out a little bit. It's very menacing. It's like a spider like summing up its prey. Like I will not write off this modern day Brighton. I'm actually quite stressed about it because I feel in terms of depth and the way that squad is run, I feel that they can do a lot of damage to us. I don't know. Hopefully, there's some revelations between now and the weekend.
Well, not to foreshadow the next, numerous weeks in an overly negative tone. It's going to be very difficult until we find a way to score goals, particularly, relying on our guys up front. You go into every game thinking, well, how are we going to do this?
Yeah, I hate going into games like that. I hate going into games just being like, what Deus Ex Machina can happen to like will a comet hit the ground and then give us some space to open up? I don't know. Like this is probably the most mid-table, and again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But this is the most lower mid-table we've felt in a while, and I feel that how like even the Scott Parker season, we went into every game being like we've got nothing to lose, we're underdogs, and last season we went into every game being like we can do anything, the wind is in our sails. This season, I don't really know how I feel, and I don't really like it. It's the devil you know is better than the devil you don't,
Yeah, look, I do agree. I feel like I can't really see a path to victory for us when we seem to be so flaccid in front of goal, for want of a better term. We just you have to score goals to win games, and if you're not scoring goals, you can't win games. The one thing about this Brighton side is they've been fractionally hot and cold this season. I know they've had some good results. They beat Newcastle, they beat Man United, but they did lose 3-1 to West Ham, who don't look that crash hot this year. They lost 6-1 to Aston Villa, who are a good side, but again, not a 6-1 side.
Well, I don't know
not
about
a 6-1 side though. And look, they've had a couple of good performances recently. A 2-2 draw with Liverpool, a 2-1 loss to Man City. It's going to be a tough game, but I think there's the possibility of maybe a little bit of a smash and grab similar to how we played against them when we played them at the Amex last season, when we really didn't create anything, and Solomon scored late in the game off the back of another really nice layoff from Vinny. I think that's the only way we're going to win this game, though. Realistically, I don't see us slowly working Brighton out and eking out a win. I see it as a smash and grab on a counter attack.
Yeah, I agree.
And look, maybe everything turns around and Jimenez starts and scores his first goal after 10 minutes, and then he goes absolutely ballistic and starts scoring overhead kicks and back heels and all that jazz. But I mean, that feels like a bit of a fantasy at the moment. One that I will hopefully close my eyes and think about tonight, though.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to go any further than that. Let's call it there. So, look, guys. There's. I want to say that I'm excited for the game this weekend. Not overly. I
always look forward to a game.
I always look forward to the game. I just don't look forward to the actual result at the end of it. But look, I am looking.
You asked us how we're going to do it, how we're going to win, and I can't tell you that. I always look forward to the game. I just can't tell you how we're going to win.
Yeah. But look, I think the big thing is that the news that Silva signed this contract. I think going into a run of pretty tough fixtures, having that in the back of my mind, knowing that we've got a bit of direction going forward, does fill me with a little bit of satisfaction and a little bit of positivity. So that's definitely something to hold on to, I think, and really cuddle at night when we look at the league table in a couple of weeks' time. But Sammy, thank you for joining us tonight. I know it's late. Hopefully we haven't kept you up too late this time.
No, it's not too bad. It just came to me. I know how we win. We wear the pink. We haven't done it yet. That's the only thing we haven't done this season that I feel that we can do. That's on the table. I feel that pink will inspire the boys. I don't know why we haven't done it yet. I feel that Silva's got an aversion to it. It's my one gripe with Marco Silva at the moment. I want to see the pink. Hopefully I see it on the weekend. Don't know if I will, but I feel that could change everything. And yeah, no, I've had fun. You haven't kept me up too late, which is good. And yeah, I'll sleep tight knowing that pink is on the way.
Okay, sure. Ted, thank you as well for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Nice to chat about Fulham.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who's joined along on our live stream, especially Colm and Ash with FFC and me. It's been great to interact with you guys during the podcast, and we do appreciate all the support we get on the live streams and also just in general on social media. It's great to see the podcast continuing to grow and great to see new people engaging with us all the time. So really do appreciate any new listeners out there, and please do continue to share That's So Craven with other Fulham fans so that we can continue to grow and continue to support all aspects of the Fulham community. So thank you again, everyone. And until next time, come on, you Whites.